Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Flying Changes Mindset and Performance Show. And this morning, I'm very thrilled to be live here with Cassy Gadsby. Hi, Cassy.
Morning, everybody from sunny Cornwall.
I know, lovely bit of the world that you're in, isn't it? Gorgeous down there, and the sun. When the sun shines, it's so lovely down there, isn't it? It's like being on holiday all the time.
It is. We can't go anywhere this week because G7, but we are looking out because we're looking for all the big wigs planes going over. So we'll be plane spotting this week. Yeah, the G7 summit's happening this week down at Carbis Bay. So it's probably a case of not going out anywhere on the road, but keeping your eyes out for like Air Force One and stuff going over, which is going to be quite cool.
Very exciting. So you're going to be looking at the sky a lot this week then?
yeah. It's quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Air Force One, that must be quite a good one. Even if you're not a plane spotter, that's pretty cool to kind of think, oh, look, here they come. So that's just down the road from you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's luckily for us, it's a little bit further down the road. So because they're closing off a lot of the roads and things, it makes it quite awkward for people who live down there. But it's for us a bit further up. It's quite nice, really, because we know it's going on, but it's far enough away to not cause us an issue.
Yeah, nice. And so your lovely life down in Cornwall, you've got your part-bred Lusitanos, you've got your lovely daughter and her pony, you've got lots of things going on. So just tell us a little bit, for anyone who hasn't met you before, what it is that you do, Cassy.
Well, like you said, we live in Cornwall. We're very blessed. We've lived here for probably about 20 years now, so I'm definitely not Cornish born and bred, not 15 generations. So I'm probably not accepted yet, but we love it down here. It's beautiful. It's a very slow way of life compared to where we were further up country. It's a much more everybody takes their time a little bit more, which is nice. Less stress, but it is interesting when you kind of dabble back into the world above the bridge, and then everything's a little bit quicker and a little bit more stressful. So it's nice down here. It's we've got everything from horses, like you said, the part-bred Lusitano, so I've got Trakehner crosses, to our Welsh pony, to the pigs, to the sheep. Lottie wants alpacas, which we're definitely not getting, but I think she's going to try and work on that for a while. We've just been on holiday in Dorset, and they had alpacas right outside our lodge, so that really helped on the whole kind of. She look, Mummy, we can have alpacas. I was like,
I've always wanted. Didn't you say I've always wanted them? And you were like, have you? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for her whole life. Yeah. But when you're four, you could do anything. It's very different to being three.
Right.
Yeah, apparently when you're four, she tells a lot of people, well, when you're four, you can do X, Y, Z. So it's quite nice to have that confidence, really. I'd like a little bit of that confidence. I think over the years, obviously after the age of 4, your confidence doesn't necessarily kind of keep going like that. So it would be nice to have a little bit of that 4-year-old confidence again. But so we live in a very idyllic place. We're very lucky. We've got some lovely people around here. We've got some nice clients. But I travel all over the country, so I don't stay down here and never venture out. We do travel around. I'm lucky to go up to Hereford, and we go to Dorset and Somerset regularly, so it's quite nice that we can get out and about, but it is a bit of at the end of the world.
It is a little bit, but what a lovely end of the world to be. So just briefly, so you do performance and so you're Cassy Gadsby performance and plaiting. Have I got that the right way around, or is it plaiting performance?
Plaiting and performance. I don't think we've still decided on which way round to put it. If anybody wants to comment, which way round should we go? Plaiting and performance and plaiting. We can't get it to work at the minute, so we need some help with that one. I've got two sides of the business. I've got the coaching side of the business and the plaiting side of the business. I did a lot more plaiting. I had an accident back in 2011. And I couldn't ride for a while, and I wanted to still go to the shows and see everybody. So I started plaiting for friends and things, and then it got bigger and bigger and grew into a business, which is great. But as I'm getting older and the joints are struggling a little bit more, I am not doing maybe so many. So I want to keep the quality up, but I'm having to drop the quantity. a little bit, because it is taking its toll on my body, on my hands and on my elbows and my wrists and things. Because to do it right and to, to have it looking how I want it to look, it is quite stressful on your body. So I teach people now how to plait. I love it because I love coaching. So what it does is it incorporates the two sides of my business. I go around and I teach people to plait, and you might think, oh, that's not a very difficult thing to plait, but there is a lot to it that a lot of people don't really take into consideration. So that is a great side of my job now. I get to go around the country teaching people how to plait. We haven't been able to do it, obviously, for the last year because of lockdown and COVID regulations. So I've gone and moved online a little bit more, which has also been good because you can reach people that I couldn't get to. So say I couldn't get to Scotland, or I couldn't get to Norfolk or places like that. It's been great because then people can still interact with me and learn, but they can do it online. So that's been good. And then the other side of my business is the coaching. So the horses, we have, my interest has always been in dressage. It's always been like a dressage basis because I was very lucky to grow up riding at a classical dressage yard. I have kind of dabbled in your cross country and show jumping and things. I think when I was 15 I thought I was going to be a professional show jumper, but no, that never happened. I don't think I've got enough guts really. And then as I've moved on, I've learnt about working equitation, which obviously, Jenny, you do quite a bit now. And there's lots of other people in the country now that are picking up this amazing sport because it mixes the dressage with other skills. So the obstacle round and the speed round. So it's all about finding the balance of the harmony between the horse and rider, and having the horse submissive enough but not necessarily desensitized. So the horse is still aware of what it's doing, but it's doing it because it's happy to trust that you're going to put it in a situation that is safe. So we work with the working equitation quite a lot, and I'm really enjoying that. There's a lot of dressage riders out there, and I'm not silly and thinking that I am the world's best dressage rider. I know I am maybe pretty average, but I love it. I absolutely adore the understanding of the mechanics and how the horse works and why the horse works. So for me, if I ever won the lottery, I would train every day. People always say, oh, they'll buy a big house, they buy a big lorry, but I would literally train every day, all day, every day, because I just don't think you can ever stop learning. And I love taking that on to my clients because I've managed to kind of get a nice bunch of clients now who are of the same sort of frame of mind. So they want to learn, they want to find, well, why does the horse do that? Not just because they think it's naughty. Most horses don't have that part of, they don't have that part of their brain where they sit there in the stable and they think, oh, today I'm going to do this to really annoy my owner. They don't have that. They react at the moment, in the moment, and they react in a certain way. So they don't kind of do things with a kind of preemptive mind to it. So for people that say, oh, the horse is naughty, there's normally something there. And I've fallen out with people over the years because they are 100% adamant that it's just the horse's behaviour. And a lot of the times, okay, maybe it might be, but actually it's a behaviour from something. Something has happened in the past which has created that reaction. And then the reaction has happened again and again and again. And because that thing that originally started it off was never dealt with, it becomes a learned behaviour.
Yeah.
So I am very much, whether it's a pain response or a fright response, you have to get to the bottom of it and find out what it is. I don't think horses are necessarily being naughty. I think they are reacting in a way that makes them safe, because that is their job at the end of the day, is to keep themselves safe. So we might have horses that don't like the bridge or don't like the gait in the working equitation. If your owners get mad with them and get grumpy and stroppy, they're never going to like the bridge, because every time you go near there, they get hassle. So you have to just approach it, take a step back and, do your am I bothered, and just sit there. If it takes you an hour to sit there, you sit there for an hour until the horse goes, oh, actually the human isn't reacting in the same way. And you find that balance between you being happy to feel that you can ask the horse to go forward and the horse feeling that they are happy to go forward because they trust you, not because they're scared of you.
And
definitely. That's where we've got to now with our, with my clients around here. and further afield. I've now found myself a really nice bunch of clients who kind of support that same sort of ethos to it. So we work together in that frame of mind. I'm not
Awesome.
of the kind of mindset of, well, just whack it, it'll go over it eventually. If you need to put the pressure on, you put the pressure on, but also you then praise when praise is due. And some people are old school and don't really like that and think it's a bit, airy fairy hippie type, but actually I find that I have quite a nice bond with my horses, and it's for that reason.
You really do. I mean, your gorgeous, gorgeous boy, Louis, who I know at the beginning you were so torn. Do I keep him? Do I not? What do I do? Do I continue on with him? And I know that was for you was quite a sort of a mental battle, wasn't it, as to what you do?
Yeah.
And seeing you out the other day at your first working at competition, the two of you, and standing next to you in the lineup was just gorgeous. That was just the nicest thing.
Yeah, you were lucky.
Ever,
you were lucky. You were on the higher side of me. Only just there. I'm coming to get you.
If I'd remembered my dressage test, I'd have been further up that flipping line as well.
I'm coming to get you.
Oh, I'm sure you are. And do you know what? Coming to get me, putting up my heels, that will just push me further. So keep coming.
That's good. That's how it should be. That's the thing I loved. I had three of my students that I've taught above me in the line, and I don't mind that, because at the end of the day, they know that I'm snapping at their heels, so they've got to kick on and work a little harder. I don't mind. I don't have to be out there leading. I'm quite happy to shove you guys up the backside and say, come on, push on a bit more.
Yeah. Well, it won't be long till you overtake, though, because, the partnership that you and Louis have was gorgeous. I mean, watching him work his way around the obstacles, watching him think about it, watching him, go to you and say, Mum, I'm not sure about this. And you were like, yeah, that's it. Literally, bless him. It was lovely. So just tell us a little bit about, your ethos around coaching, because I know particularly you want to talk about balance as well. And it really has been like that with you and Louis, hasn't it? This sort of balance between, you bred him, what do you do with him, how do you work him, what do you do? Just tell us a little bit about you and Louis' story far.
Technically I didn't breed him. He's bred at Knightswood Stud, which is just down the road from me, but I do own his mother, and obviously him and his sister, and a whole family group. But I was very lucky that I was allowed to go and see him on the day he was born. I think I bugged poor Lisa, that owns the stud, every day for the week before he was due, and she phoned me at work and said, he's arrived, do you want to come and see him? And he was this bent up, kind of gangly, scrawny thing, but he pretty much, when he straightened up a little bit after the next couple of days, he spent his rest of his life pirouetting, going around in circles in cantering around his mother, annoying everybody, jumping on top of her, all these sorts of things. And you could tell that he was going to be quite a chirpy chappy. Now, I wanted to call him, because the Lusitanos are called after the year, and I wanted to buy him, and I wasn't quite sure whether they were going to let me or not. So I'd said, we need to name him something that's powerful and strong. So I was thinking, because that year was the L year, I was thinking Lutador or something, which means fighter in Portuguese. And very quickly we realised that actually he's not a fighter. He's definitely a lover and not a fighter. So he was called Louis after Louis Spence, because if you have ever seen Louis Spence, that is pretty much what my horse is like. He's very camp, he's very loving, he's very loud, and he kind of comes in and says, look at me, and does a few twirly things. He's just the nicest horse. I'm not allowed to ride for 4 weeks, so he is on holiday. Well, I don't think he's calling it a holiday. He's on holiday down at the lovely Nikki Allen's down at St. Ewe with a lady called Bird, who's recently lost her horse. So I thought it would be quite nice, healing for her heart, but also be good for him to have some education from an event rider. So he's gone down there, and I'm not sure he's too keen about the 5:30 a.m. starts when they go out for a hack, though. But he is just the nicest horse, and I had a message from her yesterday saying that he makes her laugh every day, and that's what I wanted him to do. With regards to healing her broken heart a little bit, where she's lost her horse recently. I wanted, because he is the kindest soul, just like his mother. I mean, and his father. His father's a soppy sod as well. Horses can really heal, and they can really help you to balance out your life. I went through a period where I didn't have horses, and I was very down. I was in a very dark place. And my mum said to me, although you may never be rich with horses, at least you will be happier. So we ended up, funnily enough, with all three, that I wasn't going to have Louis because the stud was going to keep him. So we put the mother in foal again to the same stallion, to Zimbrow, to Emma Brooks's lovely Zimbrow. So I was going to have the filly when she was, or the foal when she was born, and then ended up that all three of them came on the market very quickly. So I ended up buying the mother and Louis, and obviously the mother was in foal at the time. So Mimby was born at home. So I have her at home, and I have this lovely family group now, which is great. But it kind of doesn't help my bank account, but it heals my heart. So it does keep me happy, and that's the balance that I needed. I'm constantly working on trying to create a work-life balance between working enough to support my very expensive hobby, but also my family when we want to go and do things. My husband and I work really hard to try and make sure that we can, give the kids what they want, but also give us a nice life. We don't really want to be kind of eating beans for the rest of our life just so that we can keep the horses in good food. But it does mean that we have to create the balance between it all. And like you said about Louis, I was thinking of selling him because he is the prettier of the two. He is the easier of the two horses, I would say. And he's brown, which makes a big difference, because if you say to people, oh, you've got a horse for sale, if you say to them it's going grey, they will probably run a mile. So of the two of them, Mimby is definitely going grey. She's quite poo coloured at the moment, but she's definitely going grey. So at the moment, Louis seemed to be the easiest one to sell. So he went away for sale, and then lockdown happened. So I don't know if you believe in fate or not, but I certainly do. And he ended up coming back to me so that I could send Mimby up for backing, because he needed to be schooled and hack, and I can do that. So I brought him home. And like you said, we found a balance. We struggled a little bit at the beginning because I was trying to shut off and do the whole, he's going to be for sale, I don't want to fall in love with him. But it's very hard not to fall in love with Louis. He is just the kindest horse you'll ever meet. He's a Labrador. If he had the opportunity to sleep on the sofa with you, he would do. He's very naughty. He's got a very cheeky sense of humour. I was saying earlier that horses don't have that reactive, nasty behaviour in them from my point of view. But he definitely has this overwhelming urge to knock over anything he can find. So your wheelbarrow, if you're poo picking, he will throw feed buckets at you. He will take the broom and swing it round, and the poo picker and all this sort of thing. So he's definitely got a very high play drive, and he loves to be occupied and to keep his brain going, which is one of the reasons that Lovely Bird's riding him for me over the next 4 weeks, because he would go absolutely mad and would probably decide to destroy something in his paddock if he had the opportunity and was left for 4 weeks doing nothing. So I think he's only been there a week and he's already knocked a wheelbarrow over, and probably tied himself up and caused lots of other trouble. He's not a horrible horse by any shape or I wouldn't say he's horrible. He's just very cheeky. So you have the balance. Whereas the other one is very. She's like a raptor. She's very sharp. She's very clever, very talented, but doesn't have such a high play drive. If you give her something to play with, she's not really bothered. She's not really interested in that. She's much more focused and work orientated. And I think having both of them is quite nice, because not nice for my bank balance, but it is very good for my mental balance, because where one you can go and play with and have some fun, the other one you can be more focused with, and then as they develop, you might find that Louis takes over and becomes more focused, and you can push him a little bit more and push him towards the focus, and hopefully Mimby, as she gets older, will have a little bit more kind of fun and play in her as well, and learn to kind of let her hair down a little bit and go out and have some fun. So we shall see. But it's a really tough kind of thing to do, to try and sell a horse. I'm not a natural kind of person that can buy and sell horses. I fall in love with them too quickly. Like all of our animals. We've got a menagerie here, and it's very, very hard to let any of them go. even our broodmare Izzy, who I think had done a suspensory ligament when she was put in foal with Louis, and then she hadn't been ridden for 6 years. She now lives on Bobbin Moor with a lovely older lady who hacks her out and loves her and looks after her. So it just goes to show that, you know, they can go and heal. They don't necessarily have to be here healing you, but they can heal you by helping other people. So it's no, they're lovely animals, and they're very rewarding.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's very interesting that you say this theme of balance keeps coming up everywhere in your life, and that you've got two completely different horses at the moment, to sort of, you know, try different things with. But what is it that you've discovered about this concept of balance, certainly over the last few months and things, when you've been just sort of mulling it over and thinking about it? And what have you kind of discovered that's helped you, or maybe even hindered you? Because that's the thing about balance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's I've been talking to you over the last year and working with you, obviously, to try and create a work-life balance. And I think I'm a lot more aware of that now, and I am a lot more focused on trying to stay balanced rather than trying to exhaust myself and put too much into the work aspect and then not actually have a family life at home. That was something that was really important to me from a young age, because my mum worked incredibly hard. Both my parents worked incredibly hard, and I didn't see them a huge amount because they were working so hard to provide for me. But I wanted to make sure that I was able to provide for Lottie, but I didn't want to not be there for her. And I do find it hard. It is a battle. So I can see very much how you would get pulled into working constantly. It's very addictive, especially when you're self-employed, because you don't know when the next paycheck's coming in. You have to constantly be almost creating a little buffer so that you have something there, and you know something will come in, pony on your next ray or something, and it will all of a sudden take that away, and you have to then go, okay, I've got to prepare then to go back and sort it out. So I've been working very closely with you over the last year to try and build that work-life balance, and I do think we're getting a lot better at it. But balance has come in quite a lot recently with Louis, because he's always been quite weak behind. Because they are a Baroque horse crossed with a warm blood. So you have one that is shorter, stockier, choppier style build, with a long-legged, gangly thing. They've got two very different horses there mixed together. And he has always been quite gangly, quite long and lanky. So we've been working a lot with my trainer down here on trying to help him balance. And it's been a real learning curve. I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's frustrated me at times. I've had days where I've ended up in tears. I've had days where I'm laughing. I've had days where I've loved it. But the majority of the time, it is a buzz to want to try and get a better balance and do better for him. And as a rider, I want to balance myself. I want to be the best I can be so that I can help him. I've been working with the physiotherapist quite a lot to help my own balance so that then I can help his balance. And we work together. One thing that's been quite interesting is where parts of my body don't necessarily work or fire correctly, it's also exactly the same in his body. So whether it's his bits that don't work that then stop mine from working, or vice versa, but it's very interesting how you end up mirroring each other. So we've been working a lot on the balance at the moment, about trying to create the ability for him to sit a little bit more and to lift the front end, just so that he can balance and take a slightly longer stride, so that he can come a little quicker with the hind legs. He has that tendency to do the Lusitano front end, which can be a little bit short and choppy at times. And as he's learning now to create his balance and to find the balance between being too high, being too low, and finding that space in the middle, and spending more time in that central balance area where he can hold himself, he's then building up the muscles that we weren't building up before. So this is the fun at the minute. This is the challenge in constantly trying to balance it all. I was talking to one of my clients the other day who's been going through quite a difficult part in her personal life, and we were having similar issues with riding her horse. So the horse has been very, very tricky. It had numerous instructors go and say, you can't do anything with it, it should go on the meat wagon, all this sorts of things. And unfortunately, when somebody says that to me, that kind of then gives me a bit of a challenge. So we decided to work slowly and consistently with it. And we worked it on the ground for probably about, say, 3 or 4 months, got its trust on the ground, and then gradually introduced the rider. And the other day we were working, which seems massive compared to where we've come, on circles. So we were working on his balance on a circle, and he can now walk, trot, canter around the school. We even had a little jump the other day, which is, she's come so far, and I'm so proud of her. But it's interesting because it's also correlated with her journey in her personal life. So where her personal life has taken a little bit of a detour of where she was expecting it to go, she has then been able to take what she has learnt with her horse and put that to her personal life. It's obviously a lot harder because it's more, I think it's more personal to you because it's involving you yourself. But she is able to see, where she rides a circle on her horse, there are areas that are really nice and balanced, and after those areas you tend to find an area that goes a little bit fast, unbalanced, a little bit unruly, not really in control of that area. Then she comes back round and realizes that that's happening, so she then starts to apply the boundaries again, support with her leg, encourage the horse to lift, to slow, and rebalances his way of going. Then she gets back round to the nice part again, and the nice part happens, the balanced part happens, and she starts to kind of drop her guard a little bit and relax into it, and then the horse starts to lose a little bit of balance, and then the whole thing happens again. So it's a vicious cycle, and it's really interesting watching her train the horse on the circle, because she was realizing that if she prepared earlier, she could get the balanced area to last for longer. She would still have the moment of kind of erratic afterwards, but it was becoming less and less. And it was interesting because what we did is we had a chat afterwards, and we kind of linked the two together, and we said it's the same as your personal life. At the moment, there's going to be moments which are balanced and you're happy with, and then there's going to be a scary area that you think, I can't cope with this, I don't like it, I don't want to keep going, I can't deal with this being the way it is. You realise that's happening, you then support and you work with yourself, you work with your friends, you work with your mentors, people around you, you go back into a balanced situation again, and then you become a little bit kind of laid back, you don't really concentrate so much on it, and then it goes a little bit erratic again. And it was so interesting how we could correlate the two, her riding, of the horse and how she was dealing with it, also with her personal life. And it was interesting because she, as a rider, knew how to deal, because we've put the tools in place over the last 6 months, she knew how to build up the balance, to make the balance last for longer, to reduce the period that was a little bit erratic, and to maintain the balance for longer with the horse. So she improved, and it went from maybe a quarter of a circle to half a circle to 3/4 of a circle, and it never went to the whole circle, but it certainly built up. She had a lot more of the area that was balanced, and she went away and she said to me, I know what I need to do in my personal life because it's the same as my riding life, but it's a lot harder to do when it's your personal life. So I said to her, the key is really having those tools and realising in the first sense that you need to do some work on the balance. You can't just leave it and hope that it will be fine. You need to do the preparation and the have the support there. You can have your moments where you let your guard down a little bit, but be ready to have to kind of pick up and work again afterwards. And I think she's growing in her personal life because she is able to do that with her horse, and that's, that might be a little bit of a weird way of explaining it, but I do think that the horses have a really, really important effect on our mental health.
100%. And I think
realize.
Exactly, and I think that really shows your skills as a coach as well, is that you're able to coach the skill and get the thing out of her, but also to have those kind of conversations. I mean, not every coach wants to, and not every coach needs to. That's absolutely fine. But when you have the clients that you have and you get to know them the way that you do, and also, you're training with us, you're doing the mindset stuff, you're understanding this kind of thing, is that you can then take that into your coaching, and you can help with things like that seem supposedly unrelated to riding, but actually are completely the same. And I think, you know, it's really interesting you were talking about balance, because if we think about balance, we think it's this static thing. When you're in balance, you balance, but it's not, is it? You ever watch someone always on a tightrope and it's always adjusting? But the difference is the ones that look really good on the tightrope are making minute adjustments. The ones who are more likely to fall off it are the ones that over adjust. And, you know, God, I'm completely at this point in my riding at the moment. In fact, it was mentioned at squad training the other week, was stop over correcting, because then you create another problem you've got to overcorrect. Just make it more subtle. And I think the more aware you are of things, and like you say, the quicker you catch something when it's going off kilter, the quicker you can make a small adjustment to bring it back. And that's the skill of balance, isn't it? It's catching it, not letting it go totally out. And then
so many riders are frightened to make a mistake. They go into a lesson and they expect to be perfect. And I just say to people, make the mistake. You know, successful people have failed more times than we have even tried. So, you know, you look at somebody like Richard Branson or Lord Sugar, or any of the big kind of entrepreneurs in the country. They have made more mistakes than we have even thought about getting out of bed and getting up for the day, because they are constantly trying to find a way to make it right. And the only way really to find the way to make it right is to learn what's wrong. It's the same with me in training. I will go and train with other people. I will go and watch other people. I'll watch things on YouTube. I'll you know, sign up for training things, and I'll try and learn as much as I can, because even if I don't personally agree with what that person is doing, there is something that you will learn from it. You'll either learn something that you like, or you'll learn something that you don't like, so that when that comes into your life and you think to yourself, oh, I remember this, I watched somebody do this, and I watched the reaction of the horse, and I watched how it had like an ongoing effect. So you can choose then whether you want to be able to take that on and use that, or you decide you're going to make a different decision. So never ever stop learning. That's the only thing I would say. You know, the day that you think, oh, you don't need to learn, you don't need to have a lesson, you don't need to train, is the day that really you shouldn't be doing it. Because even if you hack, and that's the thing you love to do, you know, maybe hack with somebody that's a little bit more experienced than you, and you know, learn something from them. How do they ride? How do they balance their horse? Because if you're trying to keep your horse in a healthy, fit frame of mind as well as their frame of body, you don't want to be sitting like a sack of spuds and be wonky on one side, because it's not going to help the horse. So even if you are naturally, you just say to yourself, okay, I don't want to school, I don't want to train, I just want to hack, absolutely fine. But what you need to make sure you're doing is hacking in a way that is healthy for you and healthy for your horse, so that you are not injuring yourself and your horse, so that you're able to make sure that both of you are able to do you know, the thing that you love to do to the best of your ability. So it's really important to find that balance in your life, whatever it is, whether you want to be the best of the best and you want to go out there and you want to win you know, the nationals or the best show jumping competition you can find, or you want to go around badminton. If that's what you want to do, go for it, and, you know, absolutely stick with it and go with what you want to do. You have to train hard, you have to work hard, not only on your horse but on yourself, on your mindset. Your mindset is huge with regards to horses, because horses reflect you. So if you are nervous, I speak to a lot of people. I spoke to a lady yesterday who said she's very nervous and her horse can be quite sharp and reactive. And I would imagine that the horse is sharp and reactive because it's sensitive. So if she goes, oh God, I'm nervous and this is going to happen, even if she's not thinking it, subconsciously her body is doing that and is tensing, then the horse is going to feel that. We are the predators in a situation. Our eyes are on the front of our head. So horses with their eyes on the side of their head are the prey animal. So if we as the predator are nervous about something, the prey animal is like, oh, crikey. You know, it's a bit like if we were somewhere and you're out in the dark, say you're out in the dark at night and you've got your dog with you and you've got a massive great dog and you think, it's okay, I'm safe because I've got a big dog. If your dog starts sticking its tail between its legs and shaking like a leaf, that is not going to fill you with confidence. You are not going to be sitting there thinking, oh, it's absolutely fine. You're going to be thinking, holy moly, what is going on? I'm terrified. And you have exactly the same thing with your horse. If you are nervous and you're agitated or you're uptight about something, your horse is going to feel that and is going to take that on board as well. So we can't then expect the horse to take the lead and say, that's all right, I'll take you through this and look after them. I mean, some horses do. Some horses, really do have that leadership side of them, but most horses are followers. They are herd animals who are quite happy to be the one in the middle. They don't want to be the one at the back because that's the one that gets eaten. They don't really want to be the one at the front because they have to make all the decisions. They're happy to be the one in the middle that gets told where the water is, told where the food is, and told when to sleep. They're happy. They don't really have to make the decisions. So as a rider, it's really important to make sure that your mental health and your mindset is being looked after and being trained. You have to train your mindset as much as you train your body to learn how to ride. Because if you come in to the yard, my husband, for example, is getting better, but he's not particularly horsey, and he'll come into the yard and he's really high energy and he's excited about something, and he'll tell me, and I can feel all the horse's energy go up and be a bit agitated on the yard. And he's not come in and done anything horrible to them and hit them or done anything nasty, but he has raised their kind of reaction, but just by him coming on and being slightly more high energy than he normally is. So you have to realise that as a rider, you have that effect on horses. And if you then go and get on a horse, then it's really important to make sure that you are able to lower your energy or increase your energy as needed, because unless you are in control of that, you are not in control of how your horse then interprets it.
Yeah.
Does that make
100%.
sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, it's like you've read the book or something. Yeah, it does. It totally makes sense. Yeah, because and I mean that's where the idea, the premise of equine city coaching even comes from, is the fact that they mirror us. They know exactly what's going on, and they'll show it to us in their reactions. But one of the things that kept coming into my head, which was something we've been talking about as well, actually, is this concept of preparation and, being prepared. So if we're talking about balance and we're talking about being prepared mentally, this concept of preparation just comes in all the time. And I have to say, I used to think, prep, really? Can't we just do? It's much easier to just do. I've always been a doer. I'm a get stuff done kind of a girl. And I used to have to do preparation when I was a project manager, because we couldn't just kind of go, I don't know, just do the project. We had to do the prep. But a lot of the time, someone else had already done the prep for me. I took it on once it was sold into the company, and then I had to quickly look at it all, make sure it was all right, and then make it happen. So I didn't really have to do it. But one of the things that as time goes by, I'm realizing more and more, and certainly, trying to really improve with riding and on squads and things like that, is preparation. Like you have to do it, really.
Yeah.
So tell us, we were having a great chat earlier as well, and I couldn't believe the what's the word, the connection that you made between platting and dressage. I thought this was brilliant. But it's all about this concept, isn't it, of you have to prep. And we all say, fail to prepare to fail, and things like that. And there's all this stuff banded around, isn't there? But actually hearing someone talk about it with real life stories and with real examples and the way that you talk about it, it just makes me go, oh yeah, okay, fine, needs to be a bit more prep. Yes, Cassy,
I'm slacking off.
Yeah, that's the one. So just tell us about your thoughts about preparation, and particularly I love the story you were telling me earlier about plaiting as well. I mean, it's fab.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to admit, I am the world's biggest hypocrite, because I am a Gemini. And as you probably know, Jenny, Geminis tend to do things a little bit kind of like fly by the seat of their pants. They do things like, oh, I'm going to do that today. They get really inspired by something and they literally do it, and they want it now. They're very impulsive. And I have a sign outside that my mum bought me that said, if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would ever get done. Because I need to have a deadline for things. I can't, if something happens in 6 months' time, I'm not going to start preparing until 2 days before. I mean, that's naturally my makeup. That's how I am. But as I've got older and I've had my own business, I've realised that I do have to prepare. I can't just sit there and it'll just happen. You have to prepare for things. And what we were talking about earlier is I did my first plaiting clinic in well over a year last weekend at the lovely Knapp Farm in Dorset. Oh, it's just the most beautiful, idyllic place. It's one of the lovely dressage riders that we know through the Iberian side of things, Charlotte Crocker Westlake. It's her family farm. It's absolutely lovely. So we did a platting clinic there to help her grooms and also some other people that came along that had some Iberian horses. So this was a predominantly Iberian clinic, but obviously we do also go through hunter plats and things as well, because a lot of her girls who are grooms and on apprenticeships, will obviously go off and go to other yards and need to learn as well. So we taught, I taught everything from how to band, how to thread, how to roll up normal plats, and then obviously going through the Iberian things as well. But the preparation came up a lot because everyone was really kind of focused on brushing the ends of the mane. We're talking about a long mane now, because the knots, so they knew that they had to get rid of the knots, but what they didn't really focus on was the top of the mane. Now, a lot of that could be because people who've got horses with long manes are very cautious about brushing their manes because they don't want the hair to fall out. But you do have to make sure that you can get through the top of the mane, because how the plait looks and how it sits depends on your preparation of the hair, a bit like our hair. So if I wasn't to brush my hair and I tried to put it up in a ponytail, it'd probably have like lumps and bumps everywhere, whereas if I brushed it, it would be a lot smoother. So it's about the preparation of the hair that is important. And one of the lovely ladies, Denise, that was on the course, she was plaiting her youngster. A beautiful horse, really, really lovely, but quite felt he'd not really had a huge amount done with it. He had his mane washed, just like washed through, but not really had a huge amount done with it. So she was plaiting away and she was doing a beautiful crest plait. She had the pattern. She understood the pattern of what she needed to do. But she kept saying to me, I'm getting all these lumpy bits, and why is this bit here, sticking up? Why is this not flat? The actual plait itself looked lovely, but she was really concerned with how it was looking, kind of coming away from the crest area. And I said to her, did you actually brush the mane at the top? And she went, no. And it's funny, isn't it? Because saying it to you now, you probably think, well, of course you brush your mane, your horse's mane before you plait. But actually, people don't. You don't prepare. You kind of brush through it, make sure that there's no knots at the end, and then crack on. It does happen. So she tried again, and she brushed through it, and then had a much better result. And it was funny because throughout the day, she kept saying to me, do you know what? I didn't prepare it again. She went in to do a tail plait, and she was plaiting the tail, and she said, she got halfway down and everything was knotted. She said, I didn't prepare again, because she was so focused on what she had to do, which was the tail plait. And because the plait to her was a bit of a challenge, it was something she had to focus on the pattern, and she kind of only had so much space in her mind to remember what she had to remember about the pattern of the plait and where to hold and where to, let your hand go so that you could get the blood back to your hand. And where to add, how much hair to add is quite a lot to think about. The preparation had gone out of her mind because the preparation wasn't something that was seen as being important in the whole scheme of things, because at the end of the day she was trying to create a plait. So for her, she had to think about the pattern of the plait and how to actually make that plait. But what she'd forgotten was the first step, which is the preparation. So it's a little bit like me going and learning. I was saying, okay, I'm going to run 5k, and literally going out my door and running, but I haven't maybe got the right clothing. I haven't maybe stretched. Haven't even thought about where I'm going to go. Where is 5k around here? There's hills, there's flat areas, there's areas where I might struggle if I haven't got the right trainers on. Is my body actually ready to run 5k? And also, have I got water, etc.? Because the preparation isn't there, I probably wouldn't have a very successful running of my 5k, and then what I probably would do is give up, because that's what tends to happen. Whereas if I had prepared and I'd maybe eased my body into it, done a few walks, made sure that I've got the right clothing, made sure I've got the right footwear, then I would probably have a lot more success at running that 5k. And it's the same as the plaiting. How many people do you know who, I know because I plait for people at competitions, because they go, oh, I can't do it, or I'll do it for a dressage, but I can't do it, because they give up. And the reason that they give up is that the preparation wasn't there to begin with. I was saying earlier to Jenny that tail plaits, they make me laugh, because the top bit is difficult. It's really difficult, and most people give up the tail plait at the beginning because it's hard. But the thing is, you're never going to learn how to do a tail plait unless you practice the pattern of a tail plait. So unfortunately, what you have to do is get through the crappy bit at the top, which is hard. Yeah, it might not look right, it might be wonky, you might have bits sticking out all over the place, but once you get further down, maybe past the first few inches, it becomes a lot easier because the hair is longer. You've got the dock, you can push the dock right back against the horse's back end, so you can actually use the horse to push against it. It makes it a lot easier. People then get the pattern and then they finish off beautifully. And what it might be, I was saying to the girls at the weekend, that your tail plait tells a story. It's a little bit like a dressage test. You get your sheet back and you look down it and it tells a story about what happened. You came through, you came down the centre line, your horse had a little bit of a spook at the judge, so you know the scores were accordingly. And then as the horse started to get used to the arena, the scores go up. You know, that settles into the rhythm. You start to relax because you're not thinking, oh God, this is terrifying. You're thinking, I'm nearly there, I'm getting to the end. So you start to relax a little bit more. You've remembered most of your tests, so you're not panicking anymore about having to remember so much of your tests. So, you know, your score probably improves as you go through your dressage test, and then you come to the end and you think, oh, holy moly, I've finished. So you get a nice kind of square halt at the end. And yeah, the beginning bit may have been tense. It may have been 5s and 4s at the beginning because it's a little bit tense, but actually because you didn't go, oh my God, that's a rubbish start, I'm going to give up, and just walk out the arena, you carried on. You allowed yourself to settle into what you were doing a little bit more. You remembered your test. You started to give yourself a bit of a pat on the back for not getting lost, and the horse started to relax, you started to relax, and it works really nicely. So hopefully as you get your sheet, you start to improve and you see some really good scores there. That then, when you go back out again and you look at your test sheet, you think to yourself, okay, well, that's all right, I got better, I can do that, I got some reasonable scores there, I'm going to have another go. If you had given up when it went wrong coming down the centre line, you wouldn't ever go back in and do another dressage test. And that's exactly the same as people with tail plaits. So one of the reasons I think that people pull tails so much and don't plait them is because the top bit, especially if the horse has like rubbed the top of the hair quite short, it can be quite difficult to plait. So the other thing is that if your horse is not used to you plaiting its tail, it's probably going to go and wiggle its tail around and lift its dock and be annoying, and because you're tickling it, you know, the dock is incredibly soft, so you're playing with a really soft area of the horse's tail and you're irritating it. It's going to wiggle around. So the more you practice, the more the horse gets used to you touching its tail and plaiting its tail. Also, the more you get used to the pattern of what you're doing. When you have got the pattern almost so it's subconscious to you, it becomes easy, then you can then start to put your focus into perfecting the areas that you aren't particularly happy with. Exactly the same as driving. How many times did you get in a car the first time you learned to drive and thought, crikey, I can't remember, I've got to put my foot on the clutch, I've got to move this gear stick, and you definitely have to look because you can't remember which gear is where. You had to have your hand at a certain place, you had to check your blind spot and put your indicator on and try and do the clutch control to get your car to go off, and you had to do all of that without crashing into something on the road. Now, if we all had thought it was difficult at the beginning, which I would imagine 9 times out of 10 we did, but we went, oh, it's hard, I'm not going to do it, none of us would be driving. But because most of us are driving, it goes to show that you can get over those little hard things. Okay, the fact that most of you are walking around shows that you got over the fact that you fell over when you were a baby. You know, if you fell over as a child and said, you know, and thought, that's it, I've failed, I can't do it, you'd all be sat on your backside for the most of your life. So it's exactly the same as riding a dressage test, as going through working equitation tests. You know, that is one of the hardest challenges you'll ever do because it's so many things to think about, but it's great. It's such a challenge because when you've done it, you come out with the most euphoric feeling because you've achieved something that was quite tough. But if you don't get off the sofa and have a go in the first place, you are, you know, you're just going to sit there and go, oh, well, that's rubbish, I can't do that, and, you know, that's not, you know, that's no fun. You have to fail in order to be able to make yourself better, and that's what I'm saying about the plaiting and the preparation of the plaiting, is that, yes, your brain is going to focus on the hard things. You know, it's going to say, oh, it's difficult, I can't do it, I want to quit, because that's difficult. But actually, if you work through the difficult bits, yes, it might not look great to begin with. Practice the pattern, make it easier for yourself, and then you can go through, and it will gradually come easier and easier.
Yeah. And I think so many people, when it comes to plaiting, because we're not, I mean, I do showing, right? So plaiting is very much taken into account, but for anything else, it's not really. I know we get a turnout mark in working ec, but you know, even then, they're not up close scrutinizing your plaits. They're sat in a judge's box at the dressage test, aren't they? So unless you do showing, in which case you've got to have plaits, a lot of people will just chuck them in and go, that'll do. And I mean, I know I've done years and years of horrendously embarrassing plaits, but I would always do them. I would always do them. And so therefore I learned. But unfortunately, of course, back then when I didn't really know about this sort of thing, it would always be on the morning of the test when I was already in a rush or nervous about things.
Stress.
And my horse, funnily enough, wouldn't stand still and I'd get annoyed with him. And of course, they'd look terrible. And so then, you know, you start thinking my plaits are awful. Until I one day learned that actually you can plait the night before and stick a hood on. Or, as I learned from you guys, you can weave tights down the neck. That's quite a good one. A very good tip, that one. And then started to actually then take my time doing plaiting. And then over the years recently, people have looked, and they're certainly never to your standard, but my plaits are quite acceptable now. You know, they're fine. Apart from the other ones from the other day, because I was in a hurry in the morning and I was really tired, but that's fine. And, you know, so, and people would sort of say, oh, you know, how are your plaits so good? And I was like, years of terrible ones. That's how they're so good. Years of shockingly horrendous ones that would fall out the moment we went anywhere. We'd get there and half of them would be gone. You know, they'd be golf balls at one end and diddly things at another and all this kind of thing. But it's also the preparation of the mane as well, and knowing how you need the mane to be before you even start to plait. But I think the reason I'm bleating on about
until you plait, you don't know that, do you?
You don't know, exactly. Is so many people either, I mean, nowadays there's more people like yourself that will plait for you, you know, so a lot of people go, just do it for me. And I get that, I do get that. But there was one lady at our recent yard, and you know, she always used to pay for someone to plait her horse ready for dressage. And I'd be like, that's all very well and everything, but every time you pay them £15, that's another class, basically, that you've paid them to do plaits for dressage, unaffiliated as well. I mean, I get it for championships. I get it for, you know, big events. I get someone to plait for me for big showing things because I want them to be on point and actually fair enough.
But also it's a lack of stress, Yeah,
exactly. And that's cool. I'm all about that. I'm all about get a professional to do something for you well. However, you don't want to be paying that every time that you're going to go to an unaffiliated dressage competition down the road. And she said, oh, you know, I'm no good at it. I was like, well, there's only one way you're going to get good at it, isn't there? And that's not watching someone else, or even worse, just paying them to do it and turning up and they're done. So I think, you know, what
it is important.
And you know, you need to be practicing. So what you've got an online course, haven't you, where people can actually just take their time, break it down and look at it. So tell us just a little bit about that and actually how that helps people to, funnily enough, get better.
I mean, the online course actually is funny because it was a secondary thing to the plaiting clinics that I did. So I did the one-to-one plaiting clinics, and then the online course came about because of lockdown. And I thought, well, loads of people are going to have time on their hands. They can practice plaiting. But the online course is actually, I would say, almost better in a way. I mean, there's a lot of people who need to learn in a one-to-one or with somebody so they can show you and explain it to you. But you are pretty much getting me showing you and explaining to you on the online course. So the online course gives you a much better view than you might have if you're at a clinic and there's a few people there where you're just watching around, because you're pretty much watching it from my point of view. So you're seeing what I'm seeing. You're seeing what I would see, where I would be looking. And I was thinking about this the other day when the guys were watching from the ground. You know, there was times where I would put the forceps in to do a thread through plait, for example, so the little scallop plait. So I put the forceps through, and then actually I came down off my steps and I said, look guys, go up and have a look to see where it is, because although they could see from the bottom, so they could see what I was doing, they couldn't see what I could see. So they went up the steps one by one and had a little look and seeing where I put it in, the angle that I put the forceps in, because that makes a massive difference. You know, being a few millimeters to the left or to the right has a huge effect on your plait, because it can twist the plait. So if you're not in the center, your plait is going to have a twist. And then if one of your plaits has a twist, it looks out compared to the rest of them. Little things like that. It wasn't until I did the clinic the other day that I realised from the online side of things how much more of a bird's eye view, a better view you have. So it has changed my way that I teach my plaiting clinics one-to-one, my clinics with me and other people, because I'm now giving them more opportunity to go up and have a look and see what I'm doing, especially if you've got a tiny pony, it's fine, but if you've got a whacking great horse like we had at the weekend, you can't see. You can see what I'm doing, but you can't see how I'm doing it to the extent that I can see. And the great thing about the online course is that gives you a view from my point of view. So you can see how I put the needle through, how tight I get it, where I push my thumbs, and because it's on a video, you've got unlimited access to it. You can stop it and go, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't see that. Let's go back again and rewind it if you need to. Whereas when you're at a clinic, most people sit there and they kind of they ask questions afterwards, but they wouldn't say, oh, look, Cassie, can you stop that? Can you do that whole thing again? Because I didn't quite see it. They don't necessarily have the confidence. I would do it, it doesn't matter. But they don't have the confidence necessarily to ask. Whereas with the online course, it gives you, you can sit there and you can go, oh, I still don't get that. Rewind it 15 times, 16 times, watch it over and over again and go, oh, I see what she's done. Because I've slowed a lot of it down as well, so you can see it in a slightly slower format, so it's much easier to watch. But also, things like the stitching, it's really important to watch how the needle goes in, where the needle goes in, and you can see that from the bird's eye view a lot better than you can if you are on a clinic. When you're on a clinic, the good thing about it is that you get to do it, and you will go through each and every plait and you'll do a few, and then I will come in and I'll be stood with you and I can help you and say, okay, we'll pull that bit to the left or to the right. But what we've done with the online side of things to give you that aspect is we've created a Facebook group called Plait Like a Pro, and you can then go in and everybody's lovely in there because everyone's in the same boat and they can go, well, I did this plait, but for example, the tail plait, I've had a lovely lady put in recently, she did a tail plait, but her plait actually sat more to the left than it did to the right, and that'll be because she's stronger with one hand than the other, so she's probably more able to grip with one side than she is with the other. But it doesn't mean that she should stop and because she's doing it wrong, crikey, no, just keep practicing, but bear in mind each time you do it that you might need to grip a little tighter with your right hand than you do with your left and put your right thumb on top. So she can come in and say, okay, this is what's happening and I don't understand why it's happening. And luckily, I will normally get back to her and say, okay, well, this is what's happening. But somebody else normally comes and goes, oh, I had that. And I found that when I did this, that happened. So everyone's helping each other out to sort each other's problems out, which is really nice. Or somebody will come in and say, oh, well, I couldn't do it that way, but I tried to do this and that worked instead. So yes, you get me, and you get me for as long as you want me. Whereas when you're on a day course, you pretty much, we did 6 hours solid the other day, and we still didn't get through everything because your brain can take in so much information. So the great thing about the online course is that you can watch a bit when you need to, even if you're plaiting that evening, like you said, get a glass of wine, that helps a lot. Put your phone in the corner of the stable, have it playing, and doing your plaits. And if you get stuck, kind of go, right, what have I got to do? And just rewind back a little bit. And that's why the online side of things has been so positive. Yes, because of COVID, everyone started using online things a little bit more. But so it's giving you a little bit more of a view from my point of view. A little bit more than you would get. Don't get me wrong, the clinics are still fun. They're great giggle. We have a laugh. We get ourselves in the right muddle, and everyone makes a mistake, and we have to kind of work out how we've managed to get that bit of the plait to look like that, because everyone twists their hands in funny ways. But it gives you another option if you are nowhere near where we're doing a plaiting clinic, for example.
Exactly. And the other thing is, even if you are nearby a plaiting clinic, you can come to one. If you then also have your online course with it as well, then you've got everything you learn there in person, because we all learn, we need a varied style to learn. So you've got the in-person, and then when you go back, you've got reminders and things that you probably would have missed. And like you say, you only remember the first and last bit of something. It's called recency and consistency. So 6 hours of plaiting clinic, great. You'll probably take away quite a lot from that, absolutely, but you're going to have forgotten an awful lot of things, even if you noted it all down. Yeah. And of course, it's such a visual thing that having those visuals really, really helps. So, yeah, I would absolutely recommend to anyone who wants to get better at plaiting that you've got to do one major thing, and that's practice it. But you've got to make sure you're practicing it right. Otherwise, you keep practicing it wrong and you'll keep doing it better wrong. So it's knowing how.
Whatever you practice, you perfect.
That's it.
So if you practice doing, it's the same as riding a rubbish circle, isn't it? If you ride the circle the same every time, you get really good at riding a really bad circle.
So, exactly. Practice makes perfect. Sorry, not practice makes perfect. Practice makes permanent.
Yeah,
it doesn't make perfect.
But it does make perfect whether you're practicing it perfectly wrong or perfectly right. So
it does,
and that's the thing about, we were talking about, summing it up about life. It's about balance, and balance isn't having it all correct or having it all wrong. It's having adjustments, lots and lots of adjustments, but hopefully smaller adjustments than bigger adjustments, to get that balance where you want it. It's never going to be still. It always moves, but hopefully in smaller increments than in bigger ones.
Absolutely. Awesome. And I know there are free resources and things that people can go and get and look on YouTube and things like that. But the real thing about your course and the wonderful thing about it is that they get access to you as well. So that if they come into that, then you can practice it, video it yourself, send a picture or something, and go, Cassy, help! And you can't do that for the free stuff on YouTube.
Doing that?
Exactly. And then you have been known as well to go, I'll just do a quick video of you on something because I didn't do it, or there's an extra bit here you need, or maybe you hadn't thought of this, and get that extra bit. So it really is, it's awesome. It's so good. So I would encourage anyone to invest in that as well.
Little things. It's not expensive for what you get. It's not expensive. And you, like I say, you can keep it for as long as you want to. So if you keep it, and then, and the great thing about the video is if you keep it and you've got a family of 4 of you, instead of having to pay for all 4 of you to come to a clinic, you can all sit there and learn together. It's what you make it. So it's there for you if you want it. Please help yourself. But you can find it on the horsecourses.com. So
yeah, and we'll post a link to it as well. So thank you so much, Cassy, for your musings on balance and preparation, and how plaiting is very akin to life and dressage. And we wish you the absolute best of luck with everything you're doing with Louis. I wish I had bought him at the moment when you thought about selling him. But hey ho, it obviously wasn't meant to be. He's clearly your boy. And we look forward to seeing you out and about, and hopefully people be in touch. How do they get in touch with you if they want to?
They can either contact me on the Facebook page. So I've got the Cassy Gadsby Equine Plaiting. I've also got the Cassy Gadsby Coaching, equine coaching page. Have a little look, find me on there. Follow me anyway if you want to, because you'll get loads of hints and tips, whether it be random mutterings, but feel free to come along. I'm on Instagram as well, so have a little look on Instagram. I'm sure you can find me on there with those as well.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you go and have a lovely, wonderful sunny day in Cornwall.
Yeah, we will. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.